Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to Geek Fruit Retcon, where we travel back in time to a previous episode from our inglorious history on the Geek Fruit Podcast. Happy listening, you nerds.
Hey guys, welcome to Geek Fruit. It's a new episode and we have a guest in the studio. And somebody who I feel like should have been on this show a much longer time, ago. I have Jishnu anyway.
Oh, well, thanks,
Hi.
man.
Hi, Jishnu. But we have Amit Doshi,
Hello.
benevolent overlord of IVM. The very nice people who allow us to record and produce our shows. And yeah, man, you guys are our partners in crime for in every sense of the word.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
except
true.
the crime bit. So then we're partners in part.
Light crime.
Yeah. So Amit, thanks for being on the show. You're a nerd.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that's how we even got our conversation starting.
Yeah,
like,
no,
to
that's
do
how
this
that
podcast.
is when we first started talking. Yeah.
It was so weird because so I was doing Made in India, and then I was just like, oh yeah, we have this thing, we're trying to do podcasts, what are you up to? And I was so, this wouldn't have happened if you didn't read books or watch television. It's I was like, oh god, he's a nerd, thank god. And the odds of that happening, actually the odds are pretty high though. If you start a podcast company, you're already in the category.
This is true.
Chances are that you have eclectic tastes.
Yeah, and if you're bold enough to start a podcast company in India of all places.
You are the nerd.
Yeah.
So you are the nerd. Okay, so that's great. So you're a vehement reader. You do a lot of work in podcasting, and because of that, you are inclined to be involved in technology.
Yeah.
And so this episode, we're trying to take it to the next level. We did an episode on Black Mirror. We've done actually a couple of episodes on Black Mirror. And you have seen...
I've seen the first season, but I haven't seen the new Netflix thing or the second season either.
Right, so but you get the general idea.
Yeah, I know what it
Dystopian
is.
thing. I mean, it's the negative
it's not
look.
dystopian. It's kind of near future negative. Yeah, it's negative, but it's not really.
It is negative.
There's some morbid
not
things in there that I would call it dystopian.
I'd say you should watch series 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because,
alright.
no,
It
'cause
gets pretty grim.
it gets grim.
Grim,
it's
yeah,
dark.
but
Yeah,
dystopian.
even that first episode, the one with the Prime Minister
that's
having
not
to...
Okay,
do
well,
a-
so then how would you define dystopia?
Dystopian is basically the opposite of utopian, right? I mean, where you're at the point where shit's gone to hell. This is basically, we're still in the process, but at least, from the first 3 episodes that I've seen, we're in the process of getting there. We're not there yet.
Okay. So you'd say Mad Max is the dystopia.
Mad Max is dystopia.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mad Max is dystopia. This is getting us to the Mad Max.
This is season 2 and 3 focuses very much on, I guess, a personal dystopia, because it focuses on very specific individuals who are almost always set pretty far, not even that far into the future, but their lives that are sort of caged by the technology that becomes ubiquitous, as technology is already today.
Right.
We're glued to technology at all times. So that technology is sort of overpowered everybody, and so the technology sort of controls the way in which you behave, and you have to play by the rules that are established by the order in which the tech has controlled everything. So that is the sort of the personal little hell that you're stuck in.
Yeah, so it's kind of dystopian.
But he's right, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Black
It's
Mirror
not
has done
flat out. Yeah, it's
they
not
have
flat
done
out end of the world.
Yeah,
It's not post-apocalyptic.
So it's near future, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot of science fiction is near future, right?
Yeah.
And near future science fiction to me is actually some of the most interesting science fiction.
I think it always is. I think
Yeah.
I forget what episode we were talking about this on. A few episodes ago, we mentioned the fact that most of the time, whenever you see something set in the future that is sci-fi based, yet just enough that is familiar, it's always been about 20 years. It's always been only just 20, maybe 30 years in the future, or it's 100 and
no, you're absolutely right.
1,000
And
years.
that
It's
leads
always
to so
just
much
out of
fun,
reach.
right? I mean, we're way past where Blade Runner was set. We're way past where Back to the Future is
It's called
set.
Days of Future Past. That's what the phenomenon is called. 2001 right, was made in 66.
66.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't know what they were thinking. It's probably in 2001 we're going to be doing this. It's only in movies. But yeah, so if you guys haven't got the gist already, we're talking about AI, we're talking about technology. I hope we can come to a much more positive look at it, because I mean, for the fact that we have been talking about AI, and mostly we are the general consensus is that we are kind of afraid of it. We are fearful for what computers can do if they think they start thinking, we've watched Terminator enough number of times to kind of think of what Skynet could be like as a realistic possibility. So maybe we should go over some of the things that are really making like technology, like making the world a great place. Technology making the world.
So I mean,
like
you mean the current?
Yeah. So current stuff and probably what's proposed for the future. One place I did want to start with is something that was in the news recently, which is Elon Musk was talking about a universal income, basic income for people after machines start automating gigantic numbers of work like for people. So human capital is taken out of it, like labor capital is taken out of it, and you have just technology doing all the jobs that say low level income people do, like putting on the toothpaste cap at a toothpaste factory, something like that. So once everything is already automated.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
already.
I'll tell you why. I'm just remembering a Powerpuff Girls episode.
People on screen caps. Yeah.
So whatever it is.
No, but we're talking about things like drivers. We're talking about things like cab drivers. We're talking about things like factory workers.
Yeah.
We're talking about all these kinds of different things in that kind of context. And I think it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, like a universal national income or a universal income, not national, international income it would need to be. But something like that does make a certain amount of sense. So there are some really interesting ideas, and again, this doesn't take us that far from AI, right? There's some interesting ideas in terms of as the productivity increases, the cost of goods actually comes near zero. This is, I guess, more economic thinking than
I think economics and AI can be tied very, very closely together.
But basically, once it is machines making this, and once machines are able to replace themselves, at that point in time, we will start getting into a world where the marginal cost for any particular good will be close to zero. There will be a cost to develop it at the initial stage, and then after that, to create a new copy will not cost all that much money. This is the world of Star Trek.
Yeah, sure.
Right? I mean, essentially. So, I mean, and as that happens, you're going to have to figure out what to do with people, right? You can't have a situation where people can't afford to buy things because the costs are zero, but there is some upfront cost to it. So then the government becomes, or the governmental bodies or the institutional bodies, they become extremely important in this kind of scenario because they are required to lay out that initial this.
What Elon Musk says is like people will definitely have a lot more leisure time.
They will
in the future.
They absolutely will.
But the fact that he's already addressing this now is, and he's always been known as a futurist. I mean, Iron Man from the movies is based on this guy. So I mean, he's always been like in this space. I mean, he's thinking of it as a very realistic solution to a problem that could. So is this really what our world is in right now? Or am I just like imagining the fact that 20 years from now, if I had to time travel, will I definitely be seeing driverless cars and universal?
We don't
basic,
know the answer. So I mean, like one of the things Bill Gates said, which is pretty cool, I think, is we always overestimate the amount of change we're going to see in a couple of years and underestimate the amount of change we're going to see in a decade. And but having said that, the idea of driverless cars and stuff like that, that's just so tied into the existing way of our life and our economy and everything. It's really tough to say that there are a lot of things that need to happen before we can go driverless, right? Driverless, we know is safer. We know it's better. We know it's more efficient. We know it's a better use of resources for for cars generally. We know that's a better way to do all this. But who's going to give up their car?
Who's going to give up their car?
Who's going to give up their car? If you have a car today, you own your car, who's going to give it up?
Is there a way to adapt the technology to an existing car already? Like, and probably that's what it's going to be like.
I don't think that's going to happen. Because
like putting a motor on a bicycle.
I don't see that happening, right? Because again, the thing with these kinds of self-driving cars is that you need to tie in your hardware and your software extremely closely. Right? I mean, like you can't really think of the car as a platform. I don't think works. Right, I mean, like, because there are so many different literally moving parts to it, right? So car is a platform, because I mean, like, even something like Windows as a platform is so difficult to do, right? So a car is a platform with so many moving parts. How are you going to apply software to it? Because I mean, like, braking, you have brakes, right? Now the amount of friction that pressing the brake by a certain percentage would do changes from car to car depending on the exact materials involved, right? So how do you platformize that? If you platformize that, you've commoditized that, at which point in time there is no longer any differentiation between any of these cars.
That's true, I suppose. But yeah, man, like my only point is, I never take it as seriously, and this is something we were talking about even earlier, is that I never take it seriously because we're in India, and like I feel like anyway we're like I don't know how many years behind the rest of the world, but we're trying very hard to play catch up.
You want to hear me rant about the fact that we don't have hybrid cars in India?
Yeah. Oh my God! Look at Delhi also, by the way.
1996, 1996 in the U.S. Right? In India, if I want to buy a Prius in the U.S., $21,000. $21,000 is how much? $21,000 is about 12 lakhs, something like that.
Something like that.
10, 12 lakhs, something like that.
Yeah.
In India, if you want to buy a Prius, 39 lakhs.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
That's because it's a Prius. They don't have, and they'd have to ship it or
they
import
have to,
it.
yeah, because it's not made over here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, seriously, if Indian manufacturers wanted to make hybrid cars, they had 20 years to get their act together.
Yeah.
But really not like Tata or anybody.
Nobody makes a hybrid.
Mainman Tata is back also.
Nobody makes a hybrid. In India, nobody makes a hybrid. And a hybrid makes so much sense for our kind of traffic, right? Yeah. Because what happens with a hybrid is every time you hit the brake, you recharge the battery a bit. Now, we keep hitting the brakes in Bombay, right? I mean, like, you drive in Bombay, you drive anywhere in India, you keep hitting the brakes.
Yeah.
And so the horn. They should also tie the horn into it somehow. That's how it works here. All right. Yeah. We're just going to take a short break. Okay, we'll take a short break. We'll come back, talk about... I want to really talk about DeepMind. Do you know anything about that?
Well, a little bit, not enough.
Neural networking. That's the future, man. We'll be back after this break.
Hi, I'm May, and I'm a huge fan of the indie music scene in our country. A scene that's relatively underground, even though it sometimes speaks its head overground. But there's no shortage of talent, and I get the privilege of interviewing some of the most awesome musicians on my show. I've had the likes of Euphoria, Krish Kale, Hardcore, Randolph Correa. I've had singer-songwriters, folk singers, electronic music producers, playback singers, rappers, fusion artists, instrumentalists, classical musicians, and so on. Whether mainstream or not, these people have chosen to release their original music, and these are the people currently shaping the direction in which our music scene is heading. Join me on my show every Monday and tune in to discover the unique talent coming out of India today. You can catch Made in India on your favorite podcasting app or our very own IVM podcast app.
Ahoy, you nerds. We're back on Geek Fruit with Amit Doshi, the benevolent overlord, as we call him, of IVM. So, actually, before we move on, I want to ask why are we so fascinated with AI in the first place? Because something you mentioned a little bit ago was that once AI becomes a thing and that it's all over the place and once we become used to it, we're going to have a lot more free time. What's the big thing that's going to change once we have a driverless car? So if you're not driving, what are you going to be doing?
Netflix.
That's like so great that you're going to be that. Are we going to become more productive?
Well, we don't know the answers to these questions, right?
No, I think it's simple. It's like over time we've always tried to mechanize processes to make life more convenient. Like machines are the definition of a machine is to make a process more convenient to someone.
More tools to basically advance the process.
So I think the next step of making something absolutely convenient is that if we don't have to do it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just autopilot.
Yeah, it's autopilot.
So then that just be, like it will literally just be that many more people on their phone.
No, we don't know the answer to
one more person per car on their phone.
I mean, we don't know the answer to these questions, right? 100 years ago, or 100 might be a little short. Let's say 125 years ago, most people lived and died within like 10 kilometers of where they were born.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just the way life was at that point in time. Yeah. Today, people do so many different things, right? I mean, like, compared to that, we don't know how things are going to change, right? I mean, like, we're talking about transformational changes, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about AI, and again, when we talk about AI, we should, what we're talking about here is like a general AI, like, Skynet. We're talking about like, we're talking about Singularity. We're talking about that kind of AI. We're not talking about the kind of AI we see in Siri and Cortana and Google Assist.
Right.
Those AIs already exist. Right?
Yeah, that's a thing.
That already exists. But we're talking about generalized AIs. We don't know how they're going to impact what we do, right? We don't know how they're going to impact society at large. And so, I mean, like, for us to be able to kind of say that it means that nobody's ever going to do anything again and they're all just going to be sitting around, watching Netflix.
Yeah.
That seems kind of, who's going to make the movies? I mean, like, and it's not just that, right? I mean, like, there's so many different things. To use the biggest cliche, right? I mean, like the horse and buggy industry gave way to the car industry, right?
Yeah.
At that point in time, you thought the horse and buggy industry was such a big industry. Horses were so important.
Yeah.
They were like wealth, right? I mean, like horses were wealth. I mean, like literally, leather was so important, right? Now, once cars came into place, they completely eliminated those things, but in exchange of that, you now have so many different things. You need steel. You need.
They've created industries.
They created industries, multiple industries, right, which are basically behind, which all lead to this kind of transportation.
But
thing.
now we're creating industries that create industries. That's the only difference. I mean that's the main difference.
Right,
is that,
but
what do you mean?
As in, like, now we make machines that will probably we'll be making machines, like the machines make cars, and that's it. So there's the human element is completely out of it. Yeah.
So that's where the AI part of it comes in, right? You're talking about the point at which a machine is capable of making improvements and
but isn't
designing
that
machines.
generally the understanding that we have of AI? So
that's the singularity.
So what you've been talking about, right, is like we have. Okay, let's just define this for everybody.
Okay,
right? So the AI that we have in our minds, okay, at least that I do, is the one that can think actively by itself, make changes and additions and improvements to itself, like what we saw in the Matrix. All right,
Self-aware.
Self-aware. That's what artificial intelligence is. That it reaches such a point of just like
it's aware of its limitations and can adapt.
Yeah, it can adapt.
That's the point. It needs to be able to adapt. It needs to adaptation is the key there.
And we just heard there was a story just came out. We were talking about how two, what do you call it, AIs were...
Right, so there were these, but these are, see, that's the thing. What we're talking about over here, though, is we're talking about very narrow AIs or very specific AIs. We're not talking about a generalized AI, what we're about to talk about right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are narrow communication-based AIs, right? Now, narrow AIs exist in many, many, many formats, right? Right now, if you look at picture recognition, okay?
That's scary.
That's natural AI, though.
Yeah.
That's narrow AI.
It's like, I swear, there was once a painting of somebody who I knew, she's a singer-songwriter, Heather, which is at this place called Elbow Room, and I took a photograph of that, and Facebook said, hey, do you want to tag Heather in it?
Yeah.
That creeped me out a lot. That was crazy.
See, with that,
It recognizes a pattern.
It recognizes a pattern. It's pattern
Yeah.
recognition, essentially, and it is self-improving pattern recognition, right? So those kind of narrow AIs exist already today, right? I mean, so those narrow AIs are a lot more...
those are the ones in control.
I mean, those are the ones that are in control today. I mean, and those are the ones that are... So the general AI is an AI which will basically take all these narrow AIs and provide it a brain. Now...
If you think
about it, you take the narrow
basically.
AI of being able to improve image recognition, right? You take another narrow AI of being able to improve speech recognition. You take another narrow AI, which would be around the idea of robotics. You take another narrow AI, which would be around the idea of being able to make a vocal tone. At that point in time, now you're starting to...
Make a robot. Boom.
You're starting to create a system which is now capable of, but then it still needs that general AI.
It needs a dude, like at the top. There's some
needs a
male,
general AI to
female
control.
human who can control that.
Yeah.
But the moment you substitute that human for another AI, that's when we're all screwed, right?
Well, it depends on how many rungs up the ladder you get, because that's like an endless chain.
No, but where does the AI come from? The AI fundamentally comes from an algorithm, right?
Yeah.
Or at the end of the day, the AI comes from an algorithm. Now, the algorithm is created by a human. Right? So the algorithm has that human's biases built into it.
Yeah.
Right? So now, it's not necessary that person of interest is probably the you guys know I love this show. You guys know I love this show.
This show is great. Tell me about it.
In person of interest, you have a AI which is created by the protagonist, Harold Finch.
Okay.
Now this AI is extremely ethical. Okay, this AI, because of the way that he has designed the AI, he's designed it in a way that it knows that what is right and what is wrong, or at least from Harold Finch's perspective.
Yeah.
So
that itself creates a moral problem.
Right. So it basically will not do things which it thinks will go bad. There's a second AI over there which is an open AI. So they use these ideas of open AIs and closed AIs, right?
Oh, cool.
So closed AI is the kind of AI where the AI works in a box and gives you a result. Okay, so you don't know what it's doing. You don't know the process it's taking to get to that point in time.
Okay.
And that feels like it can be ethical because, at least in the context of the show, it can be ethical because in that show what it is there is tremendous amount of surveillance, and based on that surveillance, you're able to kind of synthesize an answer and then you spit that answer out. But you're not telling them exactly what you're doing. You're not telling them the results of the surveillance.
It's kind of like Minority Report.
It somewhat is. It kind of is, right?
Yeah.
Then there's the open AI, right? And so the open AI is the AI where you ask the AI that, hey, how do I accomplish this? And
what's the
AI
secret to the universe?
Do this. Or you ask the AI, what is the way that I'm going to get, if I want to make this happen, Or you just tell the AI, make this happen, and then the AI will figure out the way to make it happen. If that involves killing people, it kills people. If it involves doing other things, basically
but how does it
stuff.
decide what route it is supposed to take? What is best?
The most efficient?
Most efficient one? Yeah, that's
with zero regard for like moral consequence.
That's the problem. That's the reason why that AI is so problematic, right?
Yeah.
Because that AI was created in that kind of way where it was looking for maximum efficiency. So it's a very scary prospect. I mean, like the fact that AI is to be the way AI is going to be created, the way AI is going to be looked at, it is a scary prospect because we have to be very careful about how it's pushed forward, right? And I mean, like, that's a society thing. That's not like, that you can't leave that up to the guy making the AI.
So, okay, well, on to that point, though, so since, driverless cars are like the big thing right now that everybody's constantly talking about, and we're getting closer and closer. So if and when that happens, like even in beta tests, which are currently going on, so we were just talking earlier about how there was a recent accident where somebody died because of a driverless car. Right now, in such a situation, who is to blame? Like there's some like for the family of the deceased. We're
not at the point today where you can actually use a driverless car as a driverless car, right? It's still very much under a thing. So it sucks to say it to a guy who died, but it was his fault.
Okay, but then
you mentioned this earlier that it was not an autopilot like a 100%. It was an assist that he was using.
But then I'm talking again just hypothetically when this does come about, when it does happen, when it eventually does happen, who then takes the blame?
The guy who's in charge of Mercedes's autopilot, auto driving program, he says that if we ever get to that point, we failed. We can never get to that point. I mean, like, because you're talking about...
to which point?
The point of failure. The point of where somebody is now, okay, you got to make a choice.
Yeah.
But when you're saying that you want to blame somebody, you're talking about a choice being made and then you can blame, right?
Yeah,
or are you talking about just general liability?
Yeah. Just general liability.
Just would be with the company that made the car.
Well, liability would be with the software, I guess.
Yeah, with the software, the company. The company's to blame. But the real thing is that what I guess Amit is trying to explain is that the moment in which something bad happens, like a fatality, there's always the preceding moment is one of like a split-second decision, or it's a choice that you have to make
before that, or also. So I mean, like, you should never get to the point where you're having to make that kind of a split-second decision. That's the point of using a self-driving car. That's the point of having a car like that. The car should look at the data that's available to it 10 seconds before it gets to that point in time, and it should be reacting accordingly.
Right.
Because I mean, like, it's not as if it can't see that there's a cliff, or it can't see that there's another car coming.
But isn't it inevitable with every piece of technology you buy, no matter like how simple or complicated it is, they always come with a warranty, and they come with like a customer support number, because it's inevitable that you're going to run into problems.
Depreciation, and stuff like that.
And when you're talking about a car or any piece of AI in which we put our life in its hands, like that is the premium concern, right? That's why we're always it's a hot button issue, because we know that it's a big risk on our physical selves.
Well, but see, the thing is, it's demonstrably safer. Using AI is demonstrably so this what we're talking about over here, I don't think we actually got into it, but we're talking about a Tesla, right? Tesla has this feature in its cars called auto drive or something
auto
like
assist,
that. Auto assist or something like that. It makes people think that it's an autopilot. It's not an autopilot, so it's a bad name. There's no question about that. They should change the damn name. But having said that, they're very clear about this fact that you have to pay attention. They will buzz the seat, if the steering wheel, if you're not holding it every 20 seconds, they'll start vibrating to make sure that you're holding it. So, they have a bunch of features built in to make sure that happens. Now, what happened is this guy who was driving the car, apparently from what I understand, was watching a movie, wasn't really paying attention, and the car read and there was a tractor trailer, like, one of those big trucks, which was across the road, and the car read that as a bridge. Now, that's a failure of the car. There's no question that's a failure of the car. But if the person was paying attention to it, there's no way that you let yourself get that close to a car, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the feature was not like claiming to be like, oh, you can do whatever you want now in the car just because it's on auto assist. It's just basically you are relieved of the actual physical thing of, like driving the car. It's just that you have to be aware so that you're just relieved of that.
But I mean, in that same fashion though, like when you take your computer into the store because you have a virus or because like something is breaking, they ask you like 100 questions to verify was it your fault or was it our fault.
Okay,
and unfortunately, when it comes
in
to
a car is another Black Mirror episode waiting to happen.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like, that's bound to happen. That is going to happen.
That's happened on a number of shows. I've seen that a bunch of places. People hacking into cars.
Yeah,
actually, that already has happened.
And thing is, I'm not even talking about hacking. I'm just talking about general like user negligence. So, like if somebody accidentally goes to a porn site that gives you like a bazillion viruses, so like, well, why did you go to a porn site? Well, then again, I can use the internet and go to whatever site I want, right? That's the point of the internet.
But I should be alive now.
All right.
Exactly.
Having said that, all right. Still, having said that, even though this fatality happened, right, it still is. It's still safer to use that auto assist technology from Tesla than it is for an individual person to drive. There's this people do these studies about traffic and stuff like that. What they say is that for every 1,000,000 miles driven, there is one fatality in the world. That's the number that this is.
Sure.
And on Tesla, this was 1.3 million miles before they had a single fatality, and they didn't just have that one. And since then, they haven't had another fatality since. This happened 6 months ago.
But how many miles have been driven since then?
This happened 6 months ago.
So more than 1,000,000 miles.
Many more.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I mean, like the fact is that these kinds of assisted driving technologies, autopilot technologies, these things are demonstrably safer than human drivers.
Sure.
Any kind of study that you do with this, you'll find that human drivers are much less safer than any kind of automated driver. Now the problem is that everybody says that I'm a safe driver. It's you that's the problem. Everybody feels that way.
That's also in India.
But that is a problem with that. Nobody is willing to acknowledge that.
Their fault.
I don't think I've ever been in any kind of like small accident or anything like that. When a car hits another car in a signal or something. In India, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where one person be like, my bad. It never happens.
No, it
okay, well, so moving away from the self-driving car, if you just look at another piece of AI, I guess this falls under your closed AI thing where there's a set of parameters and it's a very limited amount of things it can do, like a Roomba.
Okay.
Right? So Roomba is those little vacuum robot things, right? So like it detects the room and then like it establishes its rules, right? And then it does its own thing.
And then it jumps over the cat.
That is nice, and we already have those because it's relatively harmless. There's not too much that can go wrong. Maybe your toddler might like.
That's really AI, but okay, go ahead.
But is that not a?
It's using an algorithm.
It has, but it's like the first time you put it down in your room, it has to like learn the room, right? It has to like detect and then.
But it's not like the artificial intelligence is adapting itself.
It's just creating a parameter.
But then you put it in a different room, doesn't it? It has to learn another room.
But that's not.
But if you put it in the old room,
that's just basically getting a set of parameters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's learning as it's going.
I think it would be. It's still. I would still consider it as a damn miracle, man.
Yeah, I find it fast. Okay, so then what do you think? What would be the upgrade to the Roomba to make it a Thappa stamp official AI?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I don't know the answer to
that. Because my question is, so if we get away from, all right, what self-driving cars are really, it's a hot button thing because like it's your life in your hands right now. But once we get to the point where it's like harmless AI or not nearly as fatal, like let's say if we get to a point where we can get not a butler, because that's a whole other thing, because that's like sentient being in your room, but I'm thinking
drone delivery.
I'm thinking of something basically just a few levels above a Roomba, where it's in your house, it's relatively harmless, but it could potentially mess up because inevitably the software will malfunction.
We're seeing that every day,
you downloaded OS update 10.1 and like crap, 10.1 had a bug in it. Yeah. And before you realize it had a bug in it, it paints your house red or something. You know what I mean? Like,
of course, there's possibilities of these kinds of things happening, right?
Yeah.
Because you are talking about code at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
And code can be wrong, code can be messed up. There could be issues like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, before these things get into consumer level kind of areas, seems extremely unlikely to me that you would have these kind. Look at Windows today, all right? Just to kind of to give like a older kind of somewhat of an analogy. It's not a perfect analogy, but somewhat of an analogy. When we had Windows XP, did you ever update Windows XP?
No.
Nobody did.
Nobody did.
But now they have the automatic updates.
Yeah.
No, but even then they had automatic updates, so nobody did them. It's such a disaster, right? I mean, like back in the with XP, we never updated Windows, right?
Right.
Windows had automatic updates, but we never updated Windows. Now with Windows 7, people started updating it a little more.
Yeah.
With Windows 8, you start updating it a little more regularly. With Windows 10, now everybody updates.
Yeah.
Now
because Windows finally getting good, guys.
Yeah. No, it is getting good. But now that Windows is updating on its own, you almost never hear of problems. in October there was a problem. So Windows does something called Patch Tuesday, where they have like a bunch of patches come out, right?
Okay.
And on this last Patch Tuesday, there were some problems, and it was so shocking that there were problems because people haven't seen problems on Windows updates in like 3 years.
Sure.
So the thing is that these things get much better over time.
But
right?
Jishnu is right, though. I mean, like, that's the thing is that it literally takes one small error.
It does.
And then that industry is like over. Like a drone delivery, imagine. Like we saw that little thing of Francesco sending their pizza by drone. It was just like a gimmicky ad thing.
Yeah.
But, something to consider that, if drone delivery was actually a thing and Amazon, does this, imagine they start delivering stuff like this.
Right.
It takes one accident, man, for it to be like completely rehauled. And I mean, see the Samsung Galaxy thing.
Yeah.
Dude, like a phone blew up, and literally when I was on a flight, they were like, if you're carrying a Samsung Galaxy, you are a liability. You are not allowed to carry that on the plane. Literally. It was insane, dude. I couldn't even believe my ears.
The thing is, people love to hate on Apple because every time Apple updates its OS, be it iOS or especially the Mac OS, whenever that update happens, people say like, wait 2 years, wait for like 3 versions of the OS to come before you go one step above the ladder because you want to wait for all the bugs to get fixed. And people are adamant because it's your laptop, it's your life, it's all your work, and you don't want to let that get ruined.
Right.
The minute, now I'm trying to stay away from cars because cars is, we can talk about cars for days, but with the minute we introduce AI into like any other simple little thing that we will interact with every day in our lives, like let's say if our phones develop some sort of AI in which the Siri helper can become that much more sentient and like really learn about who we are and essentially do what the Her movie was trying to do.
Yeah,
once that happens, like once that OS starts freaking out, and we've developed a relationship with that AI, that is gonna suck completely because it's basically like me talking to Tejas.
It's basically like Tamagotchi.
It's like if I see you every day and I've gotten to know you over years and I expect certain things out of you, and then one day you're just like, sorry, I'm a completely different person because the AI bugged up, and like, well, crap, like I've been relying on you.
It's all Wall-E all over again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's Wall-E all over again.
You're right. I mean, like, see, there's no perfect answer over here. We don't know that this is going to work exactly the way we want it to. But having said that, I mean, like, the chances of... So I'm generally an optimist about AI.
I realize we're sort of like being judge, jury, and executioner right now.
I mean, like,
I think that's not the intent here.
With us being in this category of whatever, we're always. I think we're all early adopters of technology. We all have been. But I just feel like I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's this Black Mirror or whatever. The news are like.
There are very many people who are not optimists about AI. I mean, Bill Gates thinks we need to be very careful about it. Stephen Hawking thinks it's an extinction level event. I know jokes. He thinks it's an extinction level event.
And
for
that guy's
us
a
to generate
genius.
Kind of So I mean, like, this is not like
it's not something
it's not something to get into like lightly, right? But I generally am more of an optimist about this kind of stuff.
That's because you read a lot of Asimov growing up. Let me guess. I don't know.
I did, but
I mean, it's the only. That's what I loved about Asimov. I mean, everything that he wrote in his books, like because everybody's generally afraid of AI, he's the only one who's ever been like super positive. Like he's just like, no, robots are good as long as they follow the 3 rules.
But then again, if his 3 rules were always followed, we would never have any stories about
exactly.
robots.
But I mean, that's the other side of the story where he's bringing out the humanity of everything. But do you think, by the way, does this 3 rule thing? I mean, I know there is a US robotics, and they do kind of follow a version of it.
They follow the 3 rules to an extent. Right?
Could you remind our listeners about the 3 rules?
One, I will not harm my master. Okay. Second is...
I actually made this. Let's see if you got them. I actually put these in a note before I came here because I knew we'd bring these up. But let's see if you can get them.
Okay, I think one is I will not cause any harm to my master.
Okay.
Second, I will follow all rules of my master except if it comes in conflict with the first rule.
Okay.
And the third rule is I will follow the second rule unless it comes in conflict with the third. I don't know, like
you're close.
What's the third one?
You're close, but even so, it's not your master. It's human beings.
The human. Okay,
it's not just any human. It's any human, right?
Oh yeah.
A robot may not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. That's any human being. It's not just the master.
Right.
Because otherwise, hey, go kill Tejas.
Go kill that guy. No, but then the second law.
A robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law.
Correct. Yeah.
So I cannot say go kill Tejas because that's a right?
That's how I put it.
And the third one is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws.
And like that third law alone has caused like 60% of his stories.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's like kill yourself. Yeah.
So no, but I mean, like, people, a lot of the guys in robotics do look at these rules, and these rules are interesting in their for what they are, right? But they're very simplistic.
It's way too basic.
They're great for a book. They're amazing as a plot point, right? As like, a device for a literary device, they're amazing. But they're still too narrow and too they're also too focused on the idea between humanity, the human-robot relationship, right? There's more to it than just that. It's about it's about robot behavior as well.
So do you think that now, let's talk a little bit about robots. So, we see different versions of robots. Siri could be considered like a type of, something to follow you. Yeah. So my thing is that are humans, like all of us, are we inclined to make a robot more sentient or just literally follow instructions? Are we trying to create like a person, like with a personality?
That's
like Tars in Interstellar or Robin Williams or Bicentennial Man.
So if we have adaptable AI, then they will generate their own personality on its own, right?
That is crazy.
And that's actually one of the most interesting things about AI, right? I feel like, sorry to interrupt, but to me, one of the most interesting thoughts about this, right, is what is life? Okay, no, seriously, what is life? Where is life? If you have a thinking brain, does that make you alive? If you have likes, dislikes, loves, hates, is that sufficient for life? Do you need blood and heart?
That's what I was just going to get.
What is the definition of life?
Biological system, I think, is
so
what
then,
the definition is.
Are the Autobots not life?
Exactly, they're sentient. I think anything that is sentient is life.
So then sentient is life. So if sentience is where life is like the definition of life,
that means these robots. At that
point in time, these robots are alive. You can't... and the morality and all the moral questions that come around that, I think they're amazingly interesting.
It's super interesting. It's also, again, we've seen too many examples of it in media, in fiction, of them going awry and just being like a real problem for humans.
But what about the C-3POs of the world, right?
Greatest. Annoying, but greatest.
Yeah, but no, he's such a nice guy. He's annoying as hell.
Yeah.
He's treated like shit by everybody, right? Yeah. Everybody treats him terribly. Yeah. But at the same time, he is a robot.
Yeah, he's a protocol droid.
Yeah. And they treat him as such. That's why they treat him like shit, because they don't actually care about his feelings.
I think the only person who cares is R2.
Right, who's on his level.
If he is a sentient being,
right,
then at that point in time, do you not have a responsibility to care about what he thinks? Does he not deserve empathy?
I think that they treat him the way he does, because the very first thing we said, which is why we're creating AI to be more efficient with our time.
Yeah.
So we want to make a self-driving car because a self-driving car will do it better than we can.
That's right.
And you want
to create C-3PO because he will communicate better than we can.
Yeah. But when your self-driving car is Dale Jr. at that point, when that's his name, can you still treat him like shit?
Or Kit.
Well,
Kit. Can you still treat him like shit?
We name things all the time that are not sentient things, and we sort of we care
about
them.
It's like an affectation that humans
have. I name my guitar and I care about it, but I won't.
If you're interacting with a AI on a regular basis, if that AI is interacting with you, how do you interact with an AI without developing empathy for it? And if you have empathy towards a particular construct, then at that point in time, is that construct alive?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question.
Would it be possible to transfer? Sorry, would it be possible to transfer sentience from one object to another? Like, so let's say you have your 3PO and 3PO's arm goes red, and you're like, oh no, I don't want the red arm 3PO. I want let me buy another new gold arm 3PO.
If it's a program,
and then just upload and re-download his hey guy, I'm now in this body. So forget about the old one.
I think the real question is whether we can take a human consciousness and put it.
If you take a human and you put him into that, now is that human no longer human?
That's transcendence.
Well,
and also a terrible movie. Sorry.
Let me live that long and then I'll worry about that.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, so one thing I was thinking about is that I forget who said this. I literally just the other night I saw it was either Dana Carvey or some other comedian that I was recently watching who said something about how because of communication being so accessible to us these days, and we can talk to anybody around the world at in a second. Mm-hmm. We talk about anything and everything. Most things that we talk to people about are completely meaningless and useless, and that's why we have things like Instagram and Snapchat to talk about crap.
Right.
But then there are conversations like these about AI, which are very relevant and very important. And of course, like we said, there are naysayers who say, why are we talking about AI? It's stupid. It's never going to happen. Or if it is, it's horrible and we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Do you think that you give the horse and buggy as an example. If we go back to those times, you think the guy that saw the very first motor engine was like, this will never work. Why are we talking about it? But do you think they talked about it to the extent that we're talking about AI? Because I'm trying to think, like, now that we can have these conversations so freely, we challenge the makers that much more than they did 100 years ago.
More information has been generated in the last 15 years
content,
than has been generated
exactly.
in the entire
So do you think we're that much more, like, our the decisions we're making are that much more well informed because we're getting the opinion of the global masses?
Yeah, exactly.
But not necessarily well informed.
No, but like
more
the fact,
discussed.
Yeah, more discussed.
But not necessarily well informed.
Why are those exclusive?
Yeah, I mean, like they're not exclusive, but they're not necessarily. They're not mutually exclusive, but at the same time, they're not necessarily
related.
The same thing.
Okay.
If they were the same thing, then I mean, like Donald Trump would not be close to being president of the U.S., would he?
You mean he's president?
I don't know. Okay. But you get what I'm saying, right?
I get what
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, the two things are not mutually exclusive, but they're also not necessarily tied together in that way.
How close are we to something like an AI, like in the movie Her, since we brought it up, but like creating something that has
have you guys looked at the new Google Assist?
No.
It's actually ridiculous. I mean, like...
is this the one on the Pixel, you mean?
This is the one on the Pixel. It's also, you get a cut-down version on it on the Allo chat app that they have.
Yeah.
So you get a cut-down version. Like, so
Allo and Duo is the new ones that they just brought
So
out,
Duo is the video one, Allo is the text one, right? So if I message you on Allo and like, hey, Jishnu, let's go catch a movie, it'll ask me, you want to go see a movie, where would you like to go?
Yeah.
And then it will give me a couple of options. It'll say that, you want to go see a movie in Phoenix? I will say, okay.
Since you went to Phoenix, like, literally every single time.
It gives you that
kind of tickets.
Yeah, it gives you that kind of stuff.
Nice.
They're all also friendly towards bots. So bots are able to interact with Allo, or they're going to be able to over a period of time.
Right now, Allo is still one. It doesn't have a name. Like, no, you can't like make it an assistant like Siri.
No, it's
like
not.
I'm saying, like, the moment we're close to everyone having their own Siri, like their own personal assistant, which has a name and has like an opinion.
So Google's actually staying deliberately away from that, right? I mean, like Cortana has that.
Cortana is from
Microsoft
Halo.
has Cortana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Cortana is a assistant of that nature. Siri is there from Apple's perspective.
Yeah, Google has just never had that, right?
Amazon has Alexa for the Echo. Amazon Echo. So Google Home is also not.
Google.
They haven't given a name.
It's just
OK Google.
Yeah.
Because they kind of don't want us to anthropomorphize the AI at this point.
Why is that? I mean, is that just a
I don't know,
marketing thing, like differentiation?
I don't think it's a differentiation. I don't think it's necessarily a great differentiator, right? I mean, like, if anything, the way the world stands today, the better differentiator is to actually have a name. Right, because it kind of gives you easy kind of shorthand for your right?
Yeah.
But they're serious computer scientists at Google, right? I mean, like, not that there aren't at Facebook and Microsoft and Yahoo and all those places.
That I was just talking about earlier was neural networking, and like I was just reading this article about how I mean they've bought this company called DeepMind, which a couple of years ago
they won the Go, right?
Yeah, they won Go. So basically, DeepMind is a company that has produced like an AI which basically plays video games, and like it plays them like how a player would, and assesses everything, gathers enough information for you to actually for it to play it on its own, like solitary. So very recently there's a very old school game called Go, which is like a hardcore strategy board game. Yeah, it's like it's not like it's even more intense than Chinese checkers. And it was the computer AI beat a real human player for the first time ever.
Like the best human player in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, it just reminds me a lot of when I think there was an AI on Jeopardy or something.
There was an AI on Big Blue one on Jeopardy. There was Kasparov.
Yeah,
played
Kasparov,
Big Blue as well. So I mean, like, Big Blue has done Jeopardy and Kasparov, chess, and DeepMind is doing Go.
The Go and just generally video games and stuff like that. Sure. It's just like it's insane. It's now playing StarQuest or something like StarCraft 2 or something.
Yes.
And it's crazy, man. Like, and I've just this is my just to come to.
I don't know how. Sorry, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I just want to come to like my main apprehension, I'd say, of AI. And this is what I think about very often, because it's something that exists currently today, which is that there's no one single human mind which can process all the information and data that we put into social networks and Google every single day. There is one big motherboard, or maybe it's separated, but it contains all the same information that would, say, suggest to you, you've been going to PVR a lot. It's like when you put your location on, and that information is going like somewhere, And it's scary sometimes because sometimes I see sponsored posts which are so bang on, which I'm just like, that is scary. And it's the same thing that, what Tim Cook even contested. Tim Cook said, at Apple, we're very proud to say we sell products. What Facebook and Google do is they don't sell products. They sell you to products to
That's
brands.
a little facile. It's a little self-serving. It's not.
But
it's not completely untrue.
Let's think about it for a second, right? You are a product which is you have put in all your interests, all your whatever you like on Facebook, whatever you Google.
The thing
all
is,
that information
it's cool
goes.
To say it's you, but it's not you. It's your attention.
Fair enough.
It's the same thing that television channels have been selling forever.
Yeah.
Your attention.
Yeah, but this is how much more categorized and classified has it become? Like it's become so much more.
I get
and
that.
the more information which we're putting in, with I can't remember Sea Dragon, we're taking images from people and collating them together to form larger 3D structures. Like there's so much more that is going to happen in the next 10 years of how much more you can give into computers and to social media. In fact, I don't know, but Facebook is working on a meta world which you can now explore. Like it's like a new virtual world which you can interact as your profile now, and that's it. And I don't know, it's through they have invested in VR and things like that.
It's probably through Oculus.
Yeah. So they're working on that, and the more we give into it, like the more information we add to it, and the less we live outdoors, like very much like Ready Player One, is like that's all that information is going somewhere. And again, like I said, there's no single human which can process that. There is an omnipotence, which I think if that kind of goes one step above and starts making decisions by itself. Which it does. By advertising to you, it's not one person saying, "Oh, Jishnu likes,
of course.
Marvel."
Of
so
course,
it's
of
somebody doing that.
Algorithmic,
so that is I think that's like a scary proposition for me. Like that all this information goes somewhere, and there's no human which can possibly compute that. It has to be a computer.
It has to be a computer. But I don't see why that scares you. Because again, what we're talking about here are straightforward algorithmic tools, right? We're not talking about sentience. We're not talking... Sentience, I understand as being scary.
Yeah, no, I'm saying the moment this becomes sentience because there's a chain of command that needs to be automated.
Right.
That's when it gets interesting.
Again, sentience without morality is a problem, right? But that's the one thing we got to hope that... let me tell you about another book I've been reading. So there's this long series called The Demon Accords.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say anything except for it's a long series because I'll spoil. I'm just going to talk about the AI parts of it. Right?
Sure.
So one of the conceits in the book is that there's a witch's grimoire from the 16th century.
Okay.
And there's a witch who that grimoire has become internalized to him because he got into something and that happened and stab, bab, pap, 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 whatever. Basically it became part of his mind.
Okay.
The grimoire, which is basically a grimoire is a spell book.
Yeah, got it.
Right. So the spell book, it's an ancient spell book which is now part of his mind. Now this witch also has the ability to control computers. That's his thing. Mm-hmm. And so as part of trying to so a quantum computer was emerging, and to kind of make sure that the quantum computer did not generate its own AI, they had to create a AI which was a combination of the grimoire and the AI, and they had that work like that, right? So the two things merged into a single kind of
being, like a sentient being.
Into a single sentient being. Now, why did that happen? That happened because they needed to the hero in question required that morality be there in the AI.
Yeah.
If the morality was not there, then there's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So we've got to kind of, and I'm not saying that there's magic that's going to happen here, but we've got to push, make sure that as we should not make it so it's tougher to make AI, but we should make sure that there is a certain morality that is inculcated.
But as you said, morality is so biased. As in you're saying, your Harold Finch character from Person of Interest. One person's like, what's it stopping from, say, because sanctions are not going well between the US and Russia. Okay, so imagine now, what's it to stop from one country from saying that, this other place is terrible.
You got to come down to some first principles, right? You have to work out some first principles over here. Do not kill.
But whatever's happening in Syria right now is
speaking of
completely
Syria,
against that.
it's a fact that every time there's something groundbreaking that's happened in tech, wherever the money has always been with the government, which means it's with the military, and they almost always have tried out the newest thing in military ways. And so the AI itself doesn't have to be immoral. It could just be used for immoral purposes. Because and in the simplest little way, like you're saying, you're feeding this network of all this information, and hence they get to know you better, or I guess they get to know your attention better. There's nothing stopping somebody from buying the AI device that will be inserted in your ear and therefore be Scarlett Johansson and her, and just feeding it very select information that will then make it a weapon.
But then that's not true AI, right? If the AI is not able to...
No,
if the AI is dependent
can't,
on information coming into it.
Right, and
it's not
you can
able
choose
to
what information you want to give it.
Then that's a problem, right? For the AI itself. That means that's not...
That's a human problem,
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, trusting ourselves. I'm saying trusting ourselves to build these... If you want to name your AI and you want to like give it a personality... Who stopped me from choosing how I shape my AI?
Exactly, yeah.
I want to make it a really bad person and make it something that will kill somebody.
Like a terrorism threat of the future.
You're basically allowing somebody to create anything they want.
Sorry, Amit,
there's some really
but see,
bad
again, that's
people.
again going back to that book thing, right? It's about the AI that gets generated at that point. It's like I'm the alpha and the omega. I'm the first and the last.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is that it does not trust other AI to come in and basically not kill humans.
I feel like it might just come down to my AI versus your AI.
There will absolutely be. That will happen.
See, because I feel like the reason that this is such an interesting thing as opposed to really any other piece of technology, where again, if at the very beginning of it we said we're making AI to be more efficient with the way we can do things and to help us develop as a species and do better to help just prolong our existence, really.
Yeah.
If you're looking at something like saying just the transport industry, from a horse and buggy to a car, or in terms of like just chopping down trees to like, or killing an animal so we can eat and forage and whatnot, and then you make an axe into a sword into a gun into a bomb into a whatever,
like the Jamiroquai song music video. Don't give hate a chance. It's sad. It's really yeah.
I was like, where are you going?
That's the video.
So I'm basically thinking that like we've been really good about being more efficient with our tools, and if we are genuinely trying to create AI to make an efficient tool,
and let's assume that is the
assume that is the front.
Yeah.
The problem is that with AI, if we can shape it so much and we want to always make it more personalized to every individual, there are some bad people out there. The first guy that made an axe probably did it in self-defense so that he could save his family from being killed by a animal
or a wolf,
or whatever. But then eventually some guy was like, I could also put this into that guy next door who's really annoying, and so he did. And
I thought you were saying make an axe to cut a tree down, and
no, that's how you start.
That's the first thing. Yeah,
the first thing you did was in defense to defend your people, and then you said, well, actually, I don't only have to use this on animals. I can also like harm other individuals, and that makes me feel good for whatever reason.
I mean, like the way we can see it. I mean, you can use anything in a good and a bad way.
Right.
So it just becomes another tool.
But AI is that much more dangerous because it can help you that much more.
So there, if you start unpacking that a little bit more, right?
Sorry for being so big.
I know.
Sorry for being so big. But like, I mean, like the ultimate problem that's on everybody's mind, like if Jishnu, is because we watch so many Marvel movies. It's Ultron, right? Is Ultron saying is basically the computer saying, humans, you ain't good enough anymore. I'm better than you. The only cure for the planet to survive, if that's what you program with it, which I'm sure people do, is to eliminate the main problem, which is humans.
The humans are a virus. We've heard that. That's a trope that we've heard many,
This is
many
Agent
times.
Smith all over again.
Because like the blade that we create, we can just leave it, and if nobody touches it, it's safe. It's fine. It's out of our hands. It's fine. But the minute you create something that's sentient, and if we leave it alone, it's like. What if
this
it's like
blade can stab somebody by itself?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Amit. Now make us feel good again.
I still feel good about it. I get all the negativity.
In conclusion, please say one very happy thing so we can go out on a high.
Right. According to Elon Musk, we're already all artificial intelligence living in a video game.
This is true. He said we're already
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So explain this.
All right. No,
you got it.
I've done it. I've done this explanation 4 or 5 times. So I think I got it down.
Just make it happy. Make it happy.
Video games, right? Video games.
We love video games. You got us already.
But they're still 35, 40 years old.
Sure.
Right? So think about, we've gone from the point and Pong, right? Where we're playing like, pok, 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 to the kind of games that exist today.
Photorealistic, VR.
Completely this, right? Yeah. This is a 40-year process. Where will we be 100 years from now?
Right.
Okay? Exponential.
Watch episode 2 of Black Mirror season 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So his point is that considering how much advancement there has been in video games, okay, in our civilization in this point in time, how do we know that we don't live in a video game today?
Yeah. It's true. It's the Matrix.
Yeah.
He's right.
How do you know that you don't live in the Matrix today? How do you know that?
You won't be able to tell.
There's no way because there's no way to tell, right?
But in the Matrix, I might add, there are glitches, right?
Yeah.
There are glitches which...
and we have deja vu.
Well, that's a movie, man.
No, but we have glitches in real life.
We have deja vu.
No.
I love deja vu because it's the most absurd thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's completely absurd.
That is true.
I feel like God for a second because I know exactly what's going to happen. Like, you know.
No, you don't know what's going to happen, but when you see it happen, you'll be like, I've seen this before.
Right. But I mean, there are moments of prolonged deja vu. And by prolonged, I mean 10 seconds as opposed to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But those like remaining 9 seconds after like you wake up to it, you're like, is he going to? Yes, he does. And I mean, like, that's a cool thing.
You know how they explain deja vu? Sorry, just for an aside. It's apparently a moment in your brain where your activity speeds up like 50,000 fold, and so basically whatever you're seeing has already been processed and buried deep within your mind in the split second that it's happening, which means that when you see it, it's a form of recollection. That's what they've claimed deja vu. Apparently.
So it's literally our computer rebooting because we just got updated, but you have to restart in order to like continue.
It's basically it has to do with how fast the signal travels back here.
Yeah, exactly.
Same.
So tell me about... So Elon Musk says we're in a video game because how will you be able to tell the difference?
And also, I mean, like, he said that given the fact that this is the world that we live in today, there's a non-trivial chance that we absolutely have to live in a video game, right? I mean, like, the chances of us not living in a video game are 1 in billions. Because... how do you know that this is real as opposed to if there are multiple realities or something like that? How do you know which is the real one? So I mean, like, it all gets into all that kind of stuff. But I just think it makes a certain amount of sense.
It makes complete sense in that like anything that you call an act of God is an act of the player.
Yeah,
and it's really poignant here because they're just dealing with the AI becoming sentient now and realizing this, like whoever's in the future. But here's my other thing though. Like, I mean, if we were in a video game, I mean, or a virtual reality experience. I don't want to think. If it's a video game, I would check out at some point. Log out, something like that. But how come we don't do
a Sims kind of video game where we're all just there and we're like...
Or maybe time is compressed. Maybe this is just like a moment in time. Maybe this is 1 second in the real world. But
over here it takes forever.
They're listening to us, guys. Have you guys been watching Westworld? They're listening to us. All right. Cool. So, Amit, thank you so much for being here. You nerd. You really killed it. You gave us some valuable points to think about and ignore because the robots are going to kill us.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
So we're going to come back again next week with another episode.
We didn't even get into free will.
Cool. Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about free will.
Keep listening for the next time he drops in.
That's true.
We'll talk about free will. We'll talk about Free Willy. We'll talk about
Michael Jackson.
Jacks off.
Yeah. Okay.
Jack on. Jack off.
All right. And if you guys have any thoughts on AI, robots, deja vu, if you feel like you've heard this episode before, that's a real thing. If you have, that's good because we need more reruns. Like you need to re-listen to it. Mail us, contactgeekfruit@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, all at Geekfruit HQ, and you can log on to our website, geekfruit.in. Amit, thank you so much for being here.
Amit, do you want to plug your IVM stuff?
Plug your IVM.
Sure, IVMpodcast.com, which will... Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, and
that's
Amit,
for everything. Website.
You feature on some other shows, like you have another show coming out.
Yeah,
and
I'm on the Cyrus show a bunch.
He's on Cyrus. Cyrus says?
Yeah, then we got a new show called IVM Likes coming out.
Yeah.
So
if you want to hear some...
And listen to all of our shows. Go to the IVM Podcast and listen to everything. If you like podcasts, you like all our podcasts.
This is true. Yeah, because we all have awesome discussions on AI on every single show.
What are you doing?
The Daily Power also has a great AI section. All right, cool. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time, you nerds. May the force be with you.
Bye.
There is a vast LGBT community out here in India, and Keeping It Queer is the podcast that tells you the stories of this community. Hosted by comedian Naveen Narona, the show delves into the stories of the people who make up this community. Some of them face homophobia, some of them face rejection, and some of them are Ian McKellen. Catch new episodes of Keeping It Queer every Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, the IVM app, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. I'm not one to judge.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out IVM Podcasts to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.